I'm a seasoned traveler. I've been to many different places in many different cities. I enjoy the simple things in life. I love meeting the locals. I love eating good food. And I'm always open to trying something new. My name is Jordan Van Ryn, and this is for those who wander. It is said to be the melting pot of the South, the birthplace of jazz, the home of Creole Cajun cooking. At first glance, you might think you're in a different world, but this is New Orleans, and anything can happen in New Orleans. Hey everybody, this is Jordan, and I'm here at the French Market, right here in the French Quarter of New Orleans, and I'm so happy to be here because we all know this is the ultimate foodie capital. And what we're going to do here is we're not just going to explore the history and the culture and the impact of what makes New Orleans so incredible to visit, but we're also going to look at the food and listen to the music and soak in everything that makes New Orleans local. So let's get started. You ought to go see the Mardi Gras. If you go to New Orleans. Now the first thing you need to know about New Orleans is the food. I mean, come on, look at that. There's a reason why it's earned the title of America's foodie capital. New Orleans' cuisine is that good that everywhere you look at the French Market, there's vendors offering so many choices you'd want to have for lunch. But I was in the mood for something sweet, so my first choice was Holy Crepes, a vendor dedicated to making both savory and sweet portable crepes for their customers. I ordered a strawberry and banana crepe, and our chef was happy to oblige while we watched the magic happen. He starts off by spreading the crepe batter, then flips it.
Oh my God. This is food porn right here.
After smearing the pan with butter, he flips this baby to the other side. Then he dices up some bananas, and lays them out in a pyramid pattern.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this is gonna be great.
Then he does the same with the strawberries too. It's incredible how he creates these crepes with such precision. Then he does some powdered sugar like it's snow.
Oh my God.
Then one quick spray of whipped cream. Then tucks it in like a blanket.
Look at this. Oh my God.
Oh my God, that looks amazing.
Wow.
One more dusting of sugar. And lo and behold, Holy Crepe's special strawberry and banana crepe is all set and ready for hungry mouths. Trust me, it's that good and a perfect way to start your day in NOLA.
This is so good. Holy Crepes, definitely recommend.
And from Nolan's, their signature shrimp po' boy with especially mixed potatoes on the side.
That's good.
So what are those?
It's potatoes, and it's greens, and it's seasonings. Sure, have a bite.
Wow. This is really good.
Yeah.
I love it. My picture like a little piece of the
Of course.
shrimp po' boy. Let's see how this baby tastes.
Yeah.
As good as it sounds. Spoiler alert, it was awesome. That shrimp po' boy is really delicious. But that's one of the best things about the French market is that you could get to try and you graze any types of foods you want to try. And that's what makes this cool.
And then you discover 1,000 little things you love about the city. Cochon po' boy, fried chicken, seafood gumbo, veggie red beans and rice, pralines and cookies.
There's also a lot of historical sites.
Hold your horses, Homer Simpson. There's more to New Orleans than just the food. Originally founded in 1791, the French market started out as a combination between a flea market and a farmer's market for the locals. Today, it's a thriving district where not only visitors can explore their vendors, but also serve as an enduring symbol of creativity and progress for the New Orleans community. They have all sorts of locally made products, like their collections of unique jewelry, to their adorable embroidered animal wallets, which are super colorful. And if you're feeling Cajun, or if you're a fan of the show Swamp People, there's alligator heads, where you can help yourself to one, or possibly all of them. But the French market wouldn't be what it is without its masks. Masks are considered a staple in New Orleans culture thanks to its contribution to the Mardi Gras, and the masks' Venetian style give them a festive appearance. There's even different varieties, like the steampunk versions, plus all of them are handcrafted. Even their Mardi Gras beads come in many different colors. And not to mention, New Orleans' contribution to the arts is still thriving thanks to art shows and local art sales here at the French market. One particularly favorite art collection is this one. This is a whole collection of photographs where they capture Kodak moments of life in New Orleans. The quality of the pictures are crispy sharp and brightly colorful that gives each photo a picturesque view of each neighborhood. Whatever you find there, the French market is a great place to shop for souvenirs, and window shopping's always free. But there's other shopping districts to explore, like Southern Candy Makers, one of the best local candy shops in New Orleans. Opened in 1992, this family-owned confectionery shop has a collection of handcrafted candy that they won many blue ribbons and awards, including Best Candy by Atlanta's Gourmet Show and featured on Bon Appetit magazine. Their wide selection includes chocolates of all kinds, to their sweet candied caramel apples like this decadent, nutty, chocolate-drizzled masterpiece right here, and of course, their pralines, including all of their flavors like coconut, peanut butter, rum, sweet potato, and more. To satisfy my sweet tooth, we decided to get ourselves a box. We basically brought a mixture of pretty much everything. A nice batch of chocolates and pralines to go. I was even happy to take a bite of the praline too. We stopped to chill at the Gazebo Cafe. Located at Latrobe Park, this spot is the perfect place to relax, drink, have ice cream, and listen to some good old New Orleans funk.
You come back to me.
Besides its party house attitude, New Orleans is a place with a lot of history. The city was originally claimed for the French crown in 1682. Then later, the city was founded in 1718 as a gathering place for trading, forming alliances, and other business affairs. This would later form into what the city is today, a town that blends the past with the present.
Okay, so where we are right now is Jackson Square. Now this place is very famous in American history. It's because this was where the Louisiana Purchase had been signed, but it also had a bit of a dark history because a lot of enslaved Haitian people were brought here, but at the same time, it held a lot of significance because it was what built up the culture that is New Orleans. And right behind me over here is St. Louis Cathedral, and that also has become a cultural landmark here in New Orleans, so we're gonna check that place out.
Jackson Square, also known as the Place d'Armes, was built in August 1721 by French engineers. The park name changed because it was named after President Andrew Jackson. Later, it was declared a National Historic Landmark in 1960 because as scenic as the park is, this area contains many of the city's oldest buildings. But the park wouldn't be what it is without Micaela Pontalba, a Spanish Creole baroness who inherited the money from her father to participate in a list of charitable works in the city, including the expansion of Jackson Square in 1855. It's an iconic park, and an outstanding one at that.
Really beautiful, huh?
I can't believe that we're finally here, like in not just Jackson Square, which is not only such a beautiful place, but as somebody who is a really huge fan of Interview with the Vampire, and if there are any Anne Rice fans or Interview with the Vampire fans watching this was actually one of the locations of the AMC remake show of Interview with the Vampire. There were many scenes that were filmed here, including St. Louis Cathedral, and this was actually the location where Lestat actually turns Louis into a vampire in episode 1 of season 1. Now, some changes were made to Anne Rice's original novel, but they really knew how to stick with the current times in order to make it relatable and human, and yet still keep it true to Anne Rice's writing. And as somebody who loves her books and loves the show, I would assure you this place is definitely worth coming. But enough about its history. Why don't we go inside and take a look at that cathedral?
Before setting foot into the House of God, I took a quick selfie with Pope Francis, questionably standing next to some kids. It's worth it. But seriously, I have a soft spot for cathedrals, especially when it comes to its beautiful architecture. St. Louis Cathedral is one that's something else, and we were lucky to see the inside before closing time. St. Louis Cathedral was originally built in 1727 and was finished in 1794. It's the seat of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese in New Orleans and is considered the oldest cathedral in the United States. It was dedicated to King Louis IX, also known as the Crusader King, but it was destroyed in the Great Fire of March 1st, 1788. Fortunately, it was rebuilt, and Baroness Michaela Pontalba helped finance the reconstruction of this historic cathedral. Parts of the church are more than 225 years old, but much of the current building was built around the 1850s. Eventually, it was designated as a landmark, making it a sacred icon that put New Orleans on the map, and it lives up to its beauty. After seeing a beautiful church like that, I had a feeling that my stay in New Orleans will be a nice, quiet, peaceful... Just kidding. New Orleans is many things, but quiet isn't one of them. Here at the French Quarter, you'll see that live music plays everywhere you go, while still managing to keep that laid-back energy flowing. This is why many locals refer to this place as the Big Easy. It may be a big city, but it's all about pacing yourself. Speaking of that, it was time for supper, and our first stop is the Gumbo Shop. This place is the most famous restaurant to get Creole Cajun cuisine. It's not mentioned in the same breath as Antoine's, Brennan's, Commander's Palace, and other historical restaurants, but this place is so special, you just have to see it for yourself.
Shall we gumbo?
Yes, we shall gumbo. Let's gumbo so hard.
Gumbo Shop, found in 1794, pride themselves in making their cooking as authentic as possible. Now, one of the coolest things about the Gumbo Shop is that this place has been around since the 1700s. And if you look at the artwork, it's over 100 years old, and it really adds to the authenticity of the place. Although this is our first time here, we decided to order everything from the menu. Grilled boudin with mustard, jambalaya, crawfish étouffée, and shrimp creole, making this the ultimate Creole Cajun feast.
Good?
Oh my god. It's like, has a very seafoody flavor.
Sure.
It has a nice... I'm gonna try the jambalaya.
Right now? Okay.
I'm gonna try the jambalaya, which is Alistair the Radio Demon's favorite.
Well, I'm starved. Who wants some jambalaya?
Oh
Oh my
man.
gosh.
Oh my god. Okay, here's the crawfish étouffée. Okay, I hope it's really spicy. Oh my god, this is really good.
Okay, let me dip in.
Oh, try this, Dad.
It's okay, I'll get some on the rice.
I'm gonna taste this with the bread.
That's more tomatoey.
I
That's
know.
very good.
No, it tastes like tomato soup.
Well, it's thicker than that, though.
But it has a crawfish and tomatoey flavor. do you think, Dad?
It's amazing. What I really like about the jambalaya is that it's nice big chunks of chicken. When we made this at home, they cut up the sausage a little smaller than we do, and I think it works better. It's really, really very good. And the crawfish étouffée, oh my gosh, it's really big pieces. It's really big pieces in there. When you get crawfish up north, they're these bony little things with no meat. This is really, really good. Nice pieces of crawfish in there.
Oh yeah, it just goes well with the bread and everything.
It's so good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Nice big pieces. This is delicious.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this,
It's
but
all sensational.
it's
Thank
incredible. As delicious as the food is there, I can say this. If you want to experience New Orleans' history of their cuisine, Gumbo Shop is a museum of flavors and one I highly recommend. But if your heart lies where the party is, there's nothing more exciting than Bourbon Street. Centered at the heart of the French Quarter, and one of the reasons why NOLA has earned the title of the Big Easy. It has places where it can get touristy sometimes, like the shops where you can buy variations of Mardi Gras masks. They come in all shapes and sizes. You can be a cat. You can be the Phantom of the Opera. You can be an extra in Eyes Wide Shut. You can be anything. Besides it being a hotspot for tourists, it still offers much more to the casual traveler. You can dine at the Desire Oyster Bar at Royal Sonesta, the birthplace of oysters Rockefeller. You can try jazz-inspired dishes at Cornet. You can visit your local vampire apothecary, or if you're looking for something rowdy, there's Boot, Scoot, and Rodeo for the typical party animal. Since I never had a hurricane, I ordered myself the sweetest, juiciest one I could find, and by law, I was allowed to take it outside with no consequences.
Want to know the best way to living the Louisiana, New Orleans life? A hurricane. Blasting music, hurricane? What couldn't be better?
Please listen to me. I know that you love it. It's the best thing I've ever seen. Yeah, I get so blue. In my heart, sweet babe.
Choose your file. And good books look the same, right? Or they're the
Whether you come here to explore the history or just look to have fun, Bourbon Street is definitely the place where life is a party.
Baby, it looks like it's gonna hit.
It's morning at the French Quarter, and we're going to an unlikely place for breakfast.
Hey there! So today we are at Cafe Beignet, right at the Musical Legends Park, and we're about to try some delicious beignets while listening to some sweet old jazz. Let's check it out.
Since 1990, Cafe Beignet has been a local chain restaurant in New Orleans for over 30 years. It has 4 locations here in the French Quarter, and this one is located on Bourbon Street. This outdoor courtyard and patio bar dedicates itself to the preservation of the city's musical culture. Many of the statues are of jazz legends who are not just NOLA natives, but have changed music forever. Hence why you have live jazz playing in the background. Cafe Beignet is not only good, but it's considered the highest rated place. It was featured on the Food Network's The Best Thing I Ever Ate, and even won the People's Choice Award at the annual Beignet Fest. So as a foodie, I decided to try out their menu. Their menus are actually made up of their own unique blends of omelets, French toast, sandwiches, po' boys, and more. They even sell their local seasonings and sauces. But I was hungry, and I ordered a batch of fries and their fried shrimp po' boy, which tastes amazing with tomato, lettuce, and their special sauce.
This is awesome! This is amazing! Wow! Right now, you're about to witness my father eat the muffaletta. What do you think?
There's this olive relish that brings out the salami and the ham and the cheese. It's delicious. Really good.
Of course, I can't forget the beignets. There's different varieties to how you want your beignet. You can have it with chocolate, strawberries, or even honey, but being the traditionalist I am, and since I haven't tried one before, I went for the original.
The beignets have landed! The beignets have landed! Alright, now I haven't tried beignets before, so let's see how well they taste. Wow. Oh my god. I'm gonna say this. These beignets are worth it. They're better than Cafe Du Monde. It's like you get the crispy texture on the outside and there's a little fluffiness on the inside as well. And if you ever want to get a local place where to try beignets, Cafe Beignet is the place to go.
With its dedication to preserving jazz, wonderful food, and its laid-back, relaxing atmosphere, Cafe Beignet is definitely the best place to be. And I was more than happy to take a few selfies with the kings and queens of the swingers, as Louis Prima would say. I even took some beignets to go for later at the hotel. But I was eager to look around the neighborhoods of the French Quarter. As beautiful as the city blends with its past, the past isn't always pretty. In the early 1800s, many of these houses were originally party houses for plantation owners who made money off of free labor, which made them obscenely rich, that they can afford to live there as their personal getaway for the wealthy elite. Today, they are now a mixture of hotels, apartments, shops, bars, music clubs, museums, and other things to keep tourism running.
I ain't gonna work down on the farm.
But but sometimes a little bike tour through the street doesn't hurt, making it not just a great example of ethical ecotourism, but also a pleasant drive through NOLA. There's nothing like a good drive on a sunny day, though it can get pretty hot down there.
Lay around the shack till the mail train comes back.
Also, if you're feeling more adventurous, why not visit a local voodoo shop? Voodoo shops are a great place to be if you're into the supernatural. In fact, there's many voodoo shops you could find, like Reverend Zombie's, Voodoo Blues, Voodoo Authentica, and the Voodoo Bone Lady Voodoo Shop, just to name a few. I was even lucky to get a voodoo doll myself. But voodoo is not this evil thing that it's made out to be. It's an African religion blended with European and indigenous traditions and is practiced amongst the Haitian people. One practitioner is Marie Laveau, also known as the Voodoo Queen. But in real life, she was actually a businesswoman who went to church, was a hairdresser, and did so much for the community that she became the most respected woman in New Orleans. Even her grave is the most visited place by locals and travelers alike. To this day, New Orleans celebrates her life and voodoo itself through education and embracing spirituality. However, the city is about to switch on the nightlife, and we have some visitors from beyond the grave coming out of the woodwork. That's right, New Orleans is haunted, and a ghost tour is an epic way to spend the night. There are certain ghost tours that give you the VIP treatment in which they tell you real stories with as much research as possible. Our tour guide, Catherine, who's an amazing storyteller, is our host for tonight. With her experience in the city's history and her knowledge about the paranormal, she was able to take us through the city to the exact spot where many events happened. Some guests will be here for a good scare, others want to learn more information, but as a confirmed ghost story horror film addict, I was looking for both. Our first stop was this red house, which originally belonged to a rich family. Next to it is the enslaved people's quarters, attached next to the house where they're placed over a barn. This is a glimpse into an unnatural normality from the past.
6 to 8 enslaved people lived here, guys, okay? That was a normal amount of people that lived behind the houses, in all of them. That number 6 to 8 is going to be super important later on in the tour, okay? So, it's interesting, isn't it?
Next up, this particular party house once belonged to a Turkish sultan who came here as a guest.
I'm going to tell you the legend of the Sultan. We know it as the Sultan's Palace, but it was originally known as the LaLaurie Mansion. Built for a dentist named Gardet. I used to be a dentist, actually. I find that kind of funny. And sold to a man in the mid-1800s named LaPret. LaPret was a brilliant investor. He was also a plantation owner.
It is said that when the Turkish Sultan arrived to New Orleans, he came with a parade of his servants, his harem, and many of his treasures, and decorated his party house that's fit enough for Scheherazad's tales of the Arabian Nights. He threw lavish feasts and invited guests from all over the town to come join him at his party. After several months, the house fell silent, and not a single guest, the Sultan included, was seen alive again. It turns out the Sultan was a fugitive and a brother of the real Sultan who fled Turkey during the Ottoman Empire, taking his money and women with him. The brother then sent assassins to have everyone killed at the party and had the fugitive Sultan executed by burying him alive. To this day, the Sultan's ghost still haunts the house. As we continued on, we saw another Pueblo house that dates back to the Spanish occupation of New Orleans. Today, it's now a vampire club. Vampires have been a beloved cultural icon, and there are vampire cafes within the city, like New Orleans' Vampire Cafe and Boutique du Vampire, for example. Both cafes are owned by a woman named Elizabeth Kostova, who's not only a famous historian, but she claims to be a 300-year-old vampire. The vampire community was always seen to many as a controversial subculture due to their sanguinarian lifestyles, but like many communities that yearn for a place of belonging, the vampire community's main focus is creating a strong bond of acceptance.
You know, in New Orleans, we live by two sayings, right? Number one, live and let live. Number two, laissez les bons temps rouler and let the good times roll. So live and let the good times roll. That is who we are, right? That live and let live clause attracts a lot of diversity from around the world to New Orleans. We have a community here that you will find on the internet later on of about 350 people who self-identify as vampires. Now, they actually show one another taking blood from each other on the internet. And it's not sexy like that bite on the neck. Y'all, they're taking it out of each other's back.
Oh.
Speaking of vampires, did you know that this house, the Gallier House, was the inspiration for Anne Rice's groundbreaking novel, Interview with the Vampire? The Gallier House was used as a filming location for many TV shows, but it's famously remembered as the mansion of the vampire Lestat. This was said to be the place, according to Anne Rice's books. This is Lestat's mansion. And that's actually the door where Lestat and Louis went through. Pretty awesome, right? I even took myself a selfie next to this iconic gate. But some vampire stories are not fairy tales. Right next to the cafe is an apartment with a grisly story that will make a true crime fan shudder.
The Carter brothers, this is the 1930s by the way. The Carter brothers were arrested and found guilty of being serial killers in the 1930s. They were put to death in the electric chair.
How many people did they kill?
I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna go back to the beginning now. So they lived up there, y'all. Once at the port, they seemed like normal guys, but they would take victims from the street up to that apartment, restrain those victims to chairs. They'd come home from the port, they'd slit deeply their victims' wrists and drain that blood into cups and drink it.
Oh, God.
One day when they were working at the port, one of their victims broke loose. She was 14 years old. Ran down Royal Street, this is Royal, to that same police station that's still here today. 10 cops come running back. Get up to that apartment, y'all. They immediately find 13 dead men and women wrapped in sheets.
But the Carter brothers escaped the building and were never found, which is why there are no pictures of them. If you thought that was disturbing, the Ursuline Convent has a dark connection to the Catholic Church and the undead.
40% of the city was owned by the Catholic Church. Why? There were thousands and thousands of nuns here. Why? The real reason the nuns were so important is they were sent to Christianize enslaved people. They were trying to knock out all of those unbelievable African religions, right? And Christianize everyone. They did not knock out all of those religions. They're still alive and well underground. The nuns lived on the first and second floor, actually until about 28 years ago. Now that first and second floor are event spaces and meeting rooms for the Archdiocese.
But the third floor of the convent was considered a prison for vampires, and this was owned by the Vatican.
I am going to tell you a very, very famous legend that occurred here. And it is the legend of the casket girls, okay? When this occurred, the word vampire was not in use yet. The concept of a vampire had been around 3000 BC, ancient Egyptians. Every culture had its own iteration of a vampire. But the word vampire was not in use yet at the time this was built, okay? Just remember that. That's going to be important in the story. Another thing that's really important in this story is we are talking about a period of time in American history that if you were a brilliant woman, you were a witch, right? During that same period of time, if you had a very, very unfamiliar illness, you were kind of put into like a vampire-like category.
In the case of the Casket Girls, what really happened is when the men first arrived in New Orleans in the 1700s, they didn't have any wives. So they brought girls from France to be shipped over, but many of them were taken from workhouses for the poor and mental asylums. This was during a period when the mentally ill were not seen as people. During their voyage to the New World, the girls were put into a confined space on the ship with little food or water, citrus or light. When they arrived to America, the men saw that the women were gaunt, emaciated, pale-skinned with sunken eyes and receding gums, that they fled in horror, called them Casket Girls, and were put away. Many ghost hunters would investigate the convent for paranormal activity. Some of them never made it out. Is it possible that it's the sisters? Nobody knows. While this story may be fit for a horror movie, it's nothing compared to the cruelty within the walls of Delphine LaLaurie's estate. If you're not comfortable with hearing this upsetting part of the tour, please skip to this section of the video. But to anyone willing to stay, brace yourselves, because this ghost history tour is about to get dark, and not in a good way.
On LaLaurie, guys, we don't have a balcony, we have a gallery. Galleries have legs that go down to the ground, okay? Behind the mansion, do you see the two-story quarters for slave people? Let me ask you something first off. How many enslaved people typically live behind these homes?
6 to 8.
6 to 8, excellent. Delphine LaLaurie was known to keep up to 85 enslaved people here. And that is what this story is about. Locals refuse to walk beneath this gallery. This is the most vile, haunted, repulsive, and cursed home in the city. It's haunted by the pain of its past and cursed by the evil that was inflicted here. Tonight, I am going to tell you all the original American Horror Story. And that is the story of a massive, massive sociopath named Delphine LaLaurie. Before I go on about Delphine, I need to remind you all a little bit about the history going on in Louisiana at that time. We had that big swatch of land, and France is creating all of the laws for that state. Some of those laws were called codes, by the way. And one of those laws was one of the most deceptive laws ever created in this country. It was called Code Noir, N-O-I-R. Code Noir, one of the things Code Noir stated, one of the things was, and by the way, if I'm uncomfortable using a word, guys, I'm gonna air quote it, okay? One of the things that Code Noir stated was if you were the owner of enslaved people, you could not maim, injure, torture, or kill them. Sounds mighty civilized, doesn't it? Remember, guys, there are thousands of enslaved people on every plantation, beginning 5 blocks away at the Marigny plantation. Those men and women were supervised by men called plantation overseers, not by owners, okay? And guess what? Plantation overseers can maim, injure, torture, and kill. Third parties were not bound by Code Noir. One of the things Code Noir was created to do was to protect the almighty owner's reputation. So he appeared innocent of the torture and trauma synonymous with enslavement, right? Let me just sum up Code Noir for you. Code Noir was created for one reason: to protect the institution of enslavement, not the enslaved. Do y'all get what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Remember, we are talking about a time in American history, literally, when the entire country is thriving off of the economy of enslavement. Louisiana is filthy, dripping rich off of free labor. And in New Orleans, enslavement is paramount. The #1 taxed import were human beings. So, I want you to remember where you are. This is not Disneyland, right? This is the real deal. And that is the real home of Madame Delphine LaLaurie. Delphine was born in 1787. She was the heir to the massive, massive McCarty plantation, a gigantic sugar plantation 5 miles upriver. Delphine was powerful, privileged, wealthy, young when she was very young, exquisitely beautiful. But her first 2 marriages were very short-lived. At least her first 2 husbands were very short-lived. And remember, Delphine is already born into super wealth. But with the death of those 2 men, she accumulates more wealth. Get this, it said at that time she was worth $20 million. That's Bill Gates kind of wealth at that time. Remember, that whole swatch of land called Louisiana sold to America for only $15 million, okay? Anyway, 1825, Delphine decides she's going to marry for the 3rd time. This time a physician named Leonard Louis Nicholas LaLaurie. And in 1831, Delphine bought this piece of property. She's 12,500 square feet. I'm going to ask y'all a question. You know the answer. If you can't give me the answer right away, I'll give you a hint. Why did Delphine buy this piece of property?
Party house.
Exactly. So fast. I love it. Yes. My hint was going to be the same reason the men bought it. This is Delphine's party house, if you can imagine. And Delphine loved to throw lavish, lavish parties. I mean with the who's who, the creme de la creme of New Orleans society. But there was a big, fat problem. One ordinary day, Delphine is seen up on this gallery, back there, back toward that way. She is chasing an 8-year-old enslaved child named Leah. If you ever wondered where the term for white people cracker comes from, this is where it comes from. She is running behind this 8-year-old child, cracking her whip at her. She catches her at this end of the gallery, and she shoved Leah. Leah fell over the railing to her death. And we have a problem, Houston. Delphine's just broken code and law. And it is witnessed out in the open. Delphine LaLaurie is charged, found guilty of murder. And y'all happen to be standing at this exact moment in the most southern aspect of the very deep south. What y'all think happened to Delphine?
Absolutely. The hanging.
Nothing. Okay? Same year, Delphine is back to throwing parties. Same year. On October 10th, she was throwing a particularly lavish party. And guess what? The mansion caught on fire during the party. The firemen come, put out the fire. It was confined to the kitchen. When the smoke finally dissipated, the firemen found something in the kitchen that was super common, normal behavior. There was a very elderly enslaved woman shackled to the stove.
Oh boy.
She was weeping and crying to the firemen. Now the first thing she says to the firemen is this: I started the fire. Then she begs and pleads with them to go back to the quarters for enslaved people. This woman had no way to cry for help. So she started a fire. It's brilliant. She had one goal, and that was to call someone else's attention for the first time to Delphine's torture chamber. The firemen heeded this woman's wishes. About 4 or 5 feet over on the quarters for enslaved people, there's a door. They tear down that door, y'all. The stench of death rolls out. Firemen make their way through that part to the very end of it, where it turns and runs perpendicularly up the side of the mansion. And in that long room, there are 3 groups of men and women, 3 separate groups of men and women. First group of men and women are being put through torture. They were being put through a slow form of death. They were hanging in collars, lined by spikes poking up. The men and women who are still alive are desperately trying to stand on their tippy toes, right? But what are they really desperately trying to do? They've been there 4 or 5 days. They're trying not to fall asleep. Those were the men and women who were still alive. Just a hideous form of death. Second group of men and women, y'all, had been through a form of torture that actually had a name. It was called Derby's dose. Come to find out, those plantation overseers I told you all about, they were in competition with one another. Who could come up with the worst tortures? If you'd like to check my sources, there is a very famous plantation overseer named Thomas, and this is a hard word for me to say, Thistlewood, that's a TH. And Thomas Thistlewood came up with the Derby's dose. Delphine loved Derby's dose. This is where Delphine would have pieces stuffed down the throat and mouth of these men and women, y'all, and they then quickly and tightly have their lips sewn together. That is Derby's dose. And the third group of men and women had been through something, again, that was super duper common, that we did, all of the plantations did often. These men and women were considered, and here's the word, runners. All of them had had both of their Achilles tendons cut in two. While the firemen are up there taking care of these men and women, they're up there for quite a long time. The word starts to get out all over the city of New Orleans, what's going down in this mansion. A very angry mob of people start to form up and down Governor Nichols and Royal. Y'all see that big arch, the biggest archway there? That is the carriageway. Things get super complex. Delphine needs the help of very few people. What's really complex in this dynamic is 2 of the people step up to help Delphine. Her butler and her coachman. The doors fly open on that carriageway. Delphine's carriage speeds out of the mansion and down Governor Nichols to the mob. They make it all the way to Bayou St. John, about 2 miles away, okay? They get in a boat at Bayou St. John, and they stay in the boat. Bayou St. John is connected to our Big Lake Punch train, which is connected to the Gulf of Mexico, right? Through the Wrigley's. The LaLaurie's keep going. They keep on moving and changing boats and moving out. And they make their way all the way to France. They never return to America, and they never return to this building. They lived out the rest of their vile, vile lives in France without one consequence of what they've left behind.
And they say 9 circles in hell is not enough. After everything I heard tonight, I decided to give that evil, abusive, wickedly racist bitch a proper Florida farewell.
I'm right in front of Delphine LaLaurie's mansion. I have a special gift for her.
I don't like it.
Suck it.
I don't like canals.
I hope she's cast into the 12th circle of hell and will not be missed.
For the last 2 centuries, this building has been way too many things. Nothing lasts, no one stays. It's been a private home 11 times. This is 200 years. Private home 11 times. 3 separate apartment buildings. 2 separate primary schools. At the end of the 1800s, it was a home for Italian and Sicilian immigrants. I remember in the 1980s, this first floor was like a hip furniture store, okay? Today it is owned by a natural gas tycoon from Dallas. He comes in 3 nights a year. I expect he will come in tonight. He comes in for the second weekend of JazzFest, and I'm sure he's coming in for tomorrow. That's why they've been putting out the flowers and opening the shutters. So he only comes in 3 nights a year. The place is fully furnished, packed with antiques. The man who owns it wouldn't let him film American Horror Story here. He didn't want it, he didn't need it. So 2 doors down, there's a house that has the wrought iron kind of painted lime green color. you'll recognize that from American Horror Story as LaLaurie, but it's not. Okay, so the guy, this natural gas tycoon, bought it about 2 years ago out of a bankruptcy. See, back in 2010-ish, the second most famous owner of this mansion bought it. Second most famous next to Delphine, okay? He is the actor.
Brad Pitt?
No, but good guess. And if nobody knows, I'm so excited. Nobody knows. Who's it? Yes, Nicolas.
Nicolas Cage lives there?
Nicolas Cage bought this in about 2010. Now, let me tell you the problem here. He thought he was so smart because he got the haunted house. He was bragging and boasting everywhere that he got the haunted house. He was going on Good Morning America, Today Show, putting down his LA friends for buying beachfront properties because he was so smart, he got the haunted house.
New Orleans is a very important place in my life, and I've been going there for decades. When I'm in New Orleans, I feel both blessed and cursed.
By the way, his real last name is Coppola. He has a very famous director uncle who had a place about a block down. So Nicolas Cage, bragging and boasting, proud, moves his whole family in. 3 days later, silently removes his family. He stays. They said from the time he signed the paperwork on this mansion, he started circling the drain. You know what I mean by that? Just circling, about to go down.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Open my eyes! Eyes! Ah!
They said Delphine's curse kicked in immediately. Nicolas Cage spent about 6 months here. And during that 6 months, his entire career tanked. Y'all remember that time when he financially imploded so badly, he lost everything he had ever owned, including LaLaurie.
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out.
Well, Nicolas Cage had been down the street to that oldest cemetery in town, bought himself an old tomb. It's a giant pyramid. He still has that, and you can keep your wedding rings. I've walked these streets 65 years. Have I ever seen a ghost? No. Have I ever been scared? One time. Not as a child or a young person. It was about 2 years ago in my group. It was much busier out here that night, but I had my group do the same thing as y'all. Walk up, I was going to run ahead and save this spot, and I got it. Packed out here. My group's coming up, slowly but surely. I had from people from 4 to 84 in the group. 4-year-old was in a stroller. Her mother put her against that wall. So we're still waiting for people to come up. I had not said this is LaLaurie. This child lets out this sound that sounds like an animal, like this guttural animal sound. It wasn't a scream or a holler or anything. It was like this bizarre sound. Put the volume louder than I've ever heard come out of an adult. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. Now, I'm not only looking at this child, all 27 people as they walk up are looking at the kid, and her mother is like, what is wrong with you? I swear to God, this 4-year-old in the stroller, kind of like the exorcist, kind of rolls up in her stroller, y'all. She stands straight up and points up at the gallery and screams, Mommy, why are all of those people up there screaming and crying? Well, let me tell you, I had 27 non-believing adults with their eyes and mouths wide open. I'm going to tell you, this was not attention seeking. This child was experiencing the paranormal. You know, they say a veil is removed about 4. That's one thing I do believe now. To watch somebody truly experience that, it was frightening. So anyway, guys, I'd like to thank you for your respect. Thank you.
They say that we may be through with the past, but the past is not through with us. Coming on this tour really gave me a deeper insight into why New Orleans is the way it is, because their ghosts are the reminders of human suffering.
Good morning, everyone. Today we are here at the Garden District, which is another iconic neighborhood here in New Orleans. And right behind me is a Chapelaya, which is in fact a local brunch spot where we're gonna have some brunch today. Let's go check it out.
Nestled within the neighborhoods of the Garden District, a Chapelaya exudes a cozy Creole cottage vibe mixed with classic NOLA elegance. It was founded in 1924 by Italian immigrants and originally started out as a grocery. Eventually, by the 1960s, it slowly started to become a restaurant. By the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, it undergone many transformations into becoming what it is today. It finally found its place in New Orleans' rich culinary landscape. Even the gallery of Monet-esque paintings that surround the place really says it all. Not only did this place win many awards for Best Restaurant from Traveler's Choice and Diner's Choice, but it even got the approval from Anthony Bourdain himself. As a fan of his work, I look to carry the torch and pay respect to his memory by dining out in local neighborhood places. First up, their Creole deviled eggs, mixed with kimchi, furikake, and a chacaron on top.
Oh my God. Wow. It's like you get the crackling, you get a little spice of the kimchi, and it tastes so Creole. And I'll tell you, this is a perfect thing to wake up in the morning with.
Next up is fried green tomatoes with buttered rock shrimp, mixed greens, caviar, chives, and a remoulade sauce.
Oh my God. Whoa. Oh, Mir, come to mama. Wow. I'm gonna say this, but this is better than dinosaur. It's
sure.
Like, you taste like
giant pieces of shrimp.
Yeah, it's like the shrimp are like giant, and you even like taste like little like elements of the sauce. And look at this, like you get like lettuce.
Look at those pieces of shrimp; they're giant.
No, look at this, and also the chives in there too. And I think that's caviar in the middle. Take a look at that.
Yeah, it is. It's trout caviar.
Oh my God! It's like this is like I'm gonna say this, but this is a work of art.
Yeah.
But we ain't done yet. My dad got crab cake Benedict, poached eggs with a hollandaise covered crab cake.
How's it taste?
Excellent. The remoulade is not too spicy. It's really almost a little bit tomatoey. And the egg yolk mixes in really nice. Crab cake is crispy on the outside. Freaking delicious.
And what I got is their chicken and waffle showered with gravy and green onions. So good, Guy Fieri would have a foodgasm.
I'm gonna like just drizzle a little syrup to kind of make it be sweet and salty. Yes. This is food porn right here. It's like a whole money shot right here. Wow. Oh my God. Wow. This is insane.
Yeah, it looks great.
I'm gonna say this, but when you come to a Chapelaya, this is worth going to when you want for brunch. 10 out of 10.
Of all the restaurants I've been to in New Orleans, a Chapelaya is one of those places I'd rank as number one because it really lives up to its expectations in atmosphere, in their food, and in their hospitality. 5 stars in a row. But now that brunch is out of the way, it was time to explore the Garden District. Established in the late 1840s, the Garden District is one of those neighborhoods that has a long collection of architecturally notable residences nestled within the lush oak-lined streets. The oak trees that surround the neighborhood are said to be as old as the town itself, giving it an almost jungle-like feel to the place. It also helps give the environment lots of shade to cool off in the heated summers and is a great place to leisurely walk. There's a couple stops we had to see here, and our first stop is the most famous cemetery in New Orleans history, Lafayette, where there are over 500 wall vaults and 1,100 family tombs. This place has a rich history and was the filming location for movies and TV shows.
So where I'm at is Lafayette Cemetery number 1, which is a world-famous cemetery in New Orleans. And the reason why this is famous is because unlike normal graves everywhere else in the world, the dead are usually buried above ground because of hurricanes and floods. So they had to put them in these beautiful looking mausoleums in order to protect their dead. Now the reason why we're here is we're gonna be looking for Lestat's tomb. Let's go find one, shall we? The thing about New Orleans, or the Garden District for example, is this is a town that was built on the water. It really was kind of built around the 1700s. And one of the beautiful things about the Garden District is when the Civil War happened, this was one of the only cities that was not burned down by the Union. So a lot of its antebellum / Victorian feel still remains to this day. Now right behind me is A. Thomas's tomb, and the reason why it has a gold fence surrounded by the mausoleum is that it was said to be Lestat's tomb, and also one of the filming places where the original Interview with the Vampire with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt shot in 1994. And it was here at this Lafayette Cemetery when they were filming. This was basically meant to be the location in which Lestat turns Louis into a vampire in the original film. Whereas in the AMC version, Lestat turns Louis into a vampire at St. Louis Cathedral. But I think what makes this so significant is its Gothic architecture and the sense of ancient loneliness and the beauty and old aging of the walls, and you can see that in the graves as well. And the reason why we're not let in for some reason is because there is a charity that is trying to save the historical significance of these cemeteries. So this is a good thing to help the community of New Orleans.
Even the Garden District itself has been the location for filmmaking over the years. It's not just Interview with the Vampire. Other films included Dracula 2000, Double Jeopardy, Deja Vu, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, 12 Years a Slave, The Haunted Mansion, and even Happy Death Day.
For me, I'm so sad and lonely. Won't somebody take a chance with me?
It even made appearances in shows like The Simpsons and Scream Queens. But one particular mansion stands out and earned its place in the longest running horror TV show ever.
If there are any American Horror Story fans out there watching this episode, right behind me is Buckner Mansion, which is actually the filming location for American Horror Story Season 3, which is Coven, and it's all about the witches. And what you're seeing right here is filming history right here. And everything that was filmed in that particular season, all right inside that mansion. And not only was this originally a mansion, it's also a girls' finishing school, just like what happened in season 3 of American Horror Story, which also explains all of these banners and a lot of the students that are getting into these universities. This is basically like a prep school, and in a way it really ties in the 3rd season together. And since I self-identify as a witch and I'm here, this is actually pretty awesome, and I hope this will really add to your day when you come to New Orleans as well. And also, if there are any Anne Rice fans out there watching this, Anne Rice's first original home is down a block from there, and let's head over right now.
Originally built in 1857, this house once used to belong to the Clapp family for over 6 decades. Today, it's cemented in history as being the home of Anne Rice herself.
Right here behind me is Anne Rice's very first home in the Garden District in New Orleans, also known as the Mayfair Witch House. As somebody who is a huge fan of her books, from the Vampire Chronicles and the Mayfair Witches and every other books that she's written, I actually did have a first encounter with her on Facebook. And what happened was, she was actually talking about Sean Bean, who is actually known for being in Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, and he mostly dies in every single movie. And I made a little joke about how, like, let's hope they don't kill off Sean Bean again. And she responded by saying, "Are you kidding? Who would want to kill the great Sean Bean?" And that was the only time I interacted with her, and it was really quite an emotional experience for me. And when she passed away, it was like losing a friend. But she's with us in spirit, right here in the Garden District neighborhood, right here in this house.
Anne Rice also had a second home and is considered her last residence before she left this world.
Now, right behind me is St. Elizabeth's, and this is Anne Rice's final home in New Orleans after she made big money off of the Vampire Chronicles books. This was originally used to be an asylum, and then after that it was an orphanage, and then Anne Rice bought the house, and it was her last estate before she passed on. But the thing I love about this place is that in the Garden District, we get to know who Anne Rice is as a person.
Rice described in her books that the fragrance of jasmine filled the air in New Orleans. As adventurous as the walk through the Garden District was, the smell of jasmine and the oak trees really made me feel like I was home and that I was meant to be there. Remember when I said that those trees look like the jungle? Well, I was in the mood to head over to a peaceful park by the name of Audubon. It also has its own zoo, and the reason it looks familiar is that this is where they filmed Cat People, a remake of the 1946 film of the same name. They even used real live panthers in this version. But I ain't looking to find some werecats in the park. I'm here to wander about and soak in the beautiful yet haunting nature of Audubon Park itself.
slow and easy. Take my independence with no apprehension, no tension. You're walking, talking, paradise, sweet paradise. I've been across this country from Denver to the ocean, and I never met girls that could sing so sweet like the angels who live in Houston, singing roll me easy, so slow and easy. Play the concertina, I'll be your temptress, and baby I'm defenseless, singing harmony.
After taking in the sights and sounds and reconnecting with Mother Nature herself, I needed to rest for a while. Right next to one of the park's refreshing ponds.
I'm here at the park. Got a little bit of some spring water. You got this beautiful fountain. What couldn't be better?
Right here we have cypress trees growing up out of the water. Like they have mangroves in Florida, these cypress trees are kind of like the weeping willows of the New Orleans climate. And that's where we get those beautiful, lush cypress trees. Baby trees. Hello, baby trees.
As much as I wanted to spend another hour, it was getting closer to dinner time. So we took a trolley to head on over. We were lucky to have a view of the Garden District itself. We decided to go for dinner at the Garden District is a quaint little seafood restaurant called Superior Seafood and Oyster Bar. Known for serving authentic Louisiana seafood at an affordable price and located at the St. Charles Street line, the turning quarter for Mardi Gras parades, this is a seafood place I highly recommend. As I hobbled my way inside like a Southern Belle pirate, I had no idea I was about to be welcomed to an elegantly stylish environment. Seriously, this place looks like it's built for New Orleans royalty. Where's Mahalia Jackson, Tennessee Williams, or Reese Witherspoon when you need them?
Okay, so here we are at Superior Seafood and Oyster Bar, and it's said to be one of the most highest rated seafood places here in the Garden District, and we're ready to try not just really great New Orleans seafood, but oysters. So here we go.
Freshly shucked from the Gulf, these oysters wouldn't be complete without a little lemon. Then you are sent to paradise.
Oh my God. This is so good. And this goes really well with champagne. It's like the balance of sweet and salty, totally worth it.
Next, pasta di la mer, grilled shrimp atop angel hair pasta dressed with spinach, olives, and a pomodoro sauce with shaved parmesan.
Oh my God. Wow. This tastes like I died and gone to heaven.
Then it's escargot in a garlic butter sauce, which is considered a delicacy amongst the French.
Oh my God, it tastes like clams.
Yeah, kind of. That's very much right.
Oh my God, it's It's surprisingly really good.
Yeah, of course it's good.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be really
Smelly or gross, yeah.
disgusting, but it's actually really delicious.
Yeah.
It's the butter is delicious.
Finally, char grilled oysters cooked with garlic, herbs, butter, and a mix of Parmesan and Romano cheese.
Oh my god. Oh my god. This is hands down delicious. I'm gonna say this, but Superior Seafood and Oyster Bar, I would recommend.
Due to how fantastic the food is and the remarkable hospitality there, it's clear to me that the Garden District carries an energy that is very homey, that I've not found anywhere else. After a light breakfast at the hotel's diner, TikTok Cafe, we headed back to the city for a special place for lunch.
All right, so where we are at is Cochon Butcher, which is said to be one of the best local restaurants here in New Orleans, and you can get all kinds of pork-related lunches and dinners and all that kind of stuff, and we're gonna try what they have on the menu. So let's go inside and check it out.
Cochon was originally started by Chef Link as a way to reconnect with his culinary roots by creating Cajun Southern dishes with authentic flavors from Cajun country. Their menu consists of a mixture of fresh produce, seafood, but mostly locally sourced pork. Want to know what happened to those 3 little pigs? Well, they ended up at Cochon to feed us hungry humans. Their whole collection of varieties of meat really gives off appetizing vibes. But we were hungry and ready to order. What my dad got was their Cubano sandwich with ham and cheese with a side of pickles. It definitely took him back to Miami.
Oh, this looks really good.
How is it?
What I got is their pork belly sandwich with cucumbers drizzled with a special kind of sauce.
Wow.
Is it salty?
It's salty, and the cucumbers and the pickle and the sauce, it really complements it so well.
What's the sauce like?
Well, there's a certain, the vinaigrette hollandaise sauce or something.
Okay, there you go.
And the fact that you mix it in with the pickle and
the cucumber's very fresh, huh?
It really gives it a refreshing, refined taste. It's like...
Now, I have not tried the Bavarian pretzel since I've made some before. Let's see how New Orleans' Bavarian pretzel right here. How do they taste? Oh my God!
Good.
Wow!
Nice and fresh.
It's fresh, and there's a tanginess to it, and it really complements so well with the saltiness of it. And my German ancestry is it's like kicking it at a full gear, and I love every second of this. Oh wow!
Whether you come here during lunch or dinner, Cochon Butcher is one of those places that not only pays tribute to reinventing Cajun cuisine, but it gives it the respect it deserves, because Cajun culture is a part of NOLA. Today was a perfect day in New Orleans, and what a better way to spend it with a steamboat ride across the Mississippi River, also known as a paddle wheel boat. The steamboat we're going on is the Natchez, one of the most famous steamboats ever. Originally built in New York City in 1823, the Natchez sailed between New Orleans and Vicksburg, Mississippi, carrying many passengers. One of them was Marquis de Lafayette, one of the heroes of the Revolutionary War. It was later revived by the New Orleans Steamboat Company in 1975. We were ready to set sail on a very relaxing cruise.
Once again, good afternoon. Welcome aboard the famous Steamboat Atlas, the only steamboat on the Mississippi.
On the surface, it might look like your typical steamboat you would see across the river, but it's as authentic as it can be because the New Orleans Steamboat Company that revived the Natchez managed to create legit steam-powered stern wheelers and engines that are still being used in working condition today. In the boiler room, their job is not only to keep the steamboat running, but also keep the cabins warm during the cool weather. It also provides written guides that tell you the history about the Natchez. Everybody knows that the Mississippi River is the most famous in the South, but what a lot of people don't know is that the Mississippi River contains drinking water for millions of people and supports a huge shipping industry carrying food from the Midwest to the rest of the world. Not only was this an example of commerce, but it's still to this day a beneficial way to help communities. But there's music playing inside, and that music is being played by Duke Heidegger's Steamboat Stompers, a local band that plays covers of jazz classics. Overlooking the Mississippi River are two bridges that make up the Crescent City connection. Not only are these bridges considered an icon in the city, but they also played a part in one of the biggest tragedies in history.
15 years ago this week, a Category 3 hurricane hit the U.S. Gulf Coast, causing massive devastation in Louisiana and Mississippi. On August 29th, Katrina reached a Category 5 hurricane. When it arrived at the U.S. Gulf Coast, winds went as high as 200 kilometers per hour. Over 80% of New Orleans was underwater, nearly 2,000 people killed, 2 million others were without power, and thousands without homes.
It was one of the biggest natural disasters that had ever happened, that many of the refugees without homes tried to cross the Crescent City connection, but the roadblock by the Gretna police prevented them a safe passage out of the city. They were told by the U.S. government that they would seek emergency aid at the Caesar Superdome, including food and water, but it never came, thus making it a shameful, embarrassing footnote in our country's history. Even despite this tragedy, the people never gave up hope, and in their New Orleans attitude, they banded together to help rebuild the city as a way to uplift their own community and be able to prepare themselves for the next time another hurricane comes. I spoke with many locals who told me about where they were during Hurricane Katrina, and it honestly gave me a newfound respect for them. New Orleans is a city that has been through so much, and you could tell by the kindness and the hospitality, and even despite the fact that they've endured so many horrible things like slavery and hurricanes and all the likes, this is a city that never gives up. And when you look at it, all it is that it needs just a little bit more love, and it deserves a lot more respect than we give it credit for. As the boat ride was coming to a close, it was almost time for dinner, and we headed to a special restaurant that's not only amazing, but it played a big part in the civil rights movement. Dooky Chase, opened in 1941 and founded and owned by the Chase family.
So one of the reasons why Dooky Chase is one of the most significant restaurants in New Orleans history is because this place not only was a Black-owned restaurant and a family-owned restaurant that started in 1941, but it was also a place where civil rights leaders met to plan their strategies. So this place is actually a significant piece in Black American history.
Many of the civil rights leaders held their meetings upstairs in one of the rooms at the restaurant. It was there where many of the meetings set the events of the civil rights movement in action. Since then, there is a memorial with a list of all of the names of the participants on the sidewalk next to Dooky Chase, with names you might recognize.
Try it now. Come on, try it now, and you're gonna find.
Even the names of famous jazz musicians make an appearance there too. From what we saw firsthand, it's clear that we were standing in front of a historic monument in New Orleans history. Not just what it contributed to, but also in its cuisine. Dooky Chase has had a long history of pleasing both tourists and locals alike. Its menu has a wide selection of Southern Creole cuisine. Even after it was rebuilt 2 years after Hurricane Katrina, it still rates as one of the highest and best restaurants in New Orleans, that it won many awards for the best of the Big Easy. Even many celebrities visited there as customers. Some of them were musicians, including Ray Charles. Even politicians visited here, like George Bush, and of course, America's dad, Barack Obama, was a customer here too. So many people visited here that it was featured on newspapers, TV shows, and many more entertainment platforms. Not just because it's a great restaurant, but because no matter where you live or where you come from, there's always room for hospitality, and they make you feel welcome here. So we're inside Dooky Chase, which is a really historical restaurant that has been around since 1941, and I'm looking at the menu right now as the moment, and from the looks of it, a lot of it looks really appetizing, so I'm curious. First up is their barbecue shrimp, sauteed in an Abita amber peppery garlic sauce. Okay, let's try this baby. Wow. Wow, this is incredible. It's like, you get all of like the different kinds of spices, and oh my god, it's like a miracle in every bite. What my dad got, their signature crawfish etouffee with a flavorful sauce over rice.
Oh my God, you really love it.
Very good.
I got the braised duck with orange marmalade, sweet potato souffle, and their heirloom tomatoes seasoned with mint.
This is one in a million. Oh my God.
Everything about Dooky Chase's food is made with love, and it wouldn't be what it is without Leah Chase. Ironically, Disney's The Princess and the Frog was loosely based on Leah's story. Even better is that I got to meet her daughter, Stella Reese Chase, who currently is the manager of the restaurant. If you ever want to go to a place that has delicious food and a warm, welcoming atmosphere, Dooky Chase is one I definitely recommend.
Hey everybody, good morning. So where we are right now is we're outside of the New Orleans Jazz Museum, which is another cultural landmark here in New Orleans. And jazz is another amazing, important thing about New Orleans itself, because New Orleans is the birthplace of jazz itself. Let me show you where it originated from.
It all started at a location called Congo Square. This wide open space, centered within Louis Armstrong Park, is famous for its influence on African American music, most notably jazz. But its humble beginnings had a rocky start. During the 1700s to 1800s, it was originally the gathering place for enslaved Africans whenever they get Sundays off, because they weren't allowed to have congregations. So this spot was reserved where they would set up markets, sing, dance, and play music. This led to what will eventually become a cultural revolution. Over the years, after they'd been freed, they started using this place for jazz funerals, voodoo rites, Mardi Gras Indian parades, and so many more festivities that eventually New Orleans became the home of jazz itself. And what better way to celebrate New Orleans' accomplishments than the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival? Founded by jazz pianist George Wein and sponsored by Fairgrounds Racecourse and Slots, it was time to party big and le bon temps brûlé. Established in 1970, JazzFest is an annual celebration of NOLA's local music and culture. So many legendary musicians played here over the years, including Trombone Shorty, Dr. John, and even the great Alan Toussaint. Also, if you feel like getting your grub on, the festival is happy to offer you their whole menu of greatest hits in New Orleans cuisine. There's literally so much to choose from, but I decided to head over to Loretta's Authentic Pralines to get their most incredible pastry to ever exist on the planet, the praline stuffed beignet, which means taking beignets to the next level.
This is incredible! Oh my God! It's praline inside a beignet.
Beautiful.
Technically, diabetes on a pastry. But it's totally worth it.
I believe
it's
it.
worth going to the Jazz Fest for.
non, Pauline, Pauline est trop jeune. Au pas janvier, c'est la seule qui mange pas mais. Oui, elle est la seule qui je veux aimer dans tout ce pays. Au pas janvier, donne-moi Pauline. Tu vas me voir mourir si tu me la donnes pas. Parce que moi j'aime trop Pauline. Oh, Pauline, ma chati Pauline, qui moi j'aime autant.
Along the way, you'll also be treated to vendors in their African village, where you can browse incredibly detailed, locally made merchandise, all inspired off of West African culture. They have everything from tribal masks,
Early that morning on mighty Gras Day, police blew his whistle. There come a chief from the other way with the big long shiny pistol. Talk about hey, hey.
to colorful clothes and jewelry,
Blood ship Puna, hey, hey. Shoot Kuna, make a jockey mo bendo, hando in the morning, jockey mo bendo.
and other collectibles you could take home as a souvenir.
He meet you that morning, you don't stop, he gonna make you jump in the river. But hey, hey, jump in the river. Hey, hey,
Plus, there's paintings done by talented local artists.
Big chief standing on the avenue.
Not to mention, there is a whole village dedicated to celebrating the indigenous tribes of New Orleans. The Chitimacha, who settled along the lower sections of the bayou and still have tribal lands around what is now Charrington and the Atakapa tribe. There's about 14 recognized tribes today and are proudly celebrating their culture. I had the privilege to have conversations with them, and not only did we have shared interests in pop culture, but we also managed to find our common humanity through connection and understanding.
Can you clap your hands, JazzFest? Come on, can you clap your hands, JazzFest? Break down for me, Jay, break down.
You know, my grandpa Saul once used to stand outside of churches to listen to some gospel, and it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music he's ever heard. But we're right outside the gospel tent here at the New Orleans Jazz Fest, so why don't we go inside and listen to some sweet old gospel?
We can't do this without you, Doc. Song says no joy, no strength. Right here, everybody, come on, clap your hands. Come on, say no joy, no strength, no joy, say no
Your chains, keep it and snap and clap your hands. Now your chains, do your dance, yeah.
Armstrong once said that jazz is played from the heart. You can live by it and always love it. He referred to jazz as playing life itself. That alone is a perfect description of New Orleans, not just as a city, but as a community. Their slow-paced, yet joyous way of life was something I rarely ever see in other places I visited. To me, it's more than just about the food, the music, or the history, but it's in their natural need to help their fellow neighbor and treating any visitor as their extended family. It may not be as big as New York City or Miami, but New Orleans is a city that not only deserves to be invested in, but it's a city that is worthy of your attention. If I could describe it in one image, it would be the sun shining on the waters of Lake Pontchartrain. Relaxed, calm, always changing when it needs to, yet beautiful. It's the ever-changing current of life. And isn't that what the Big Easy's all about?